Okay guys, this is the second part of my video tutorial on integrating NHibernate 3.3 into ASP.NET MVC application, ASP.NET MVC4 application, and I was in my previous section I was showing you how to use a delegate, how to use database integration function. So basically you can do like a couple of ways. First thing you can do, you can use an anonymous delegate here, and this delegate would take a parameter of IDB integration configuration. I give a variable name, a parameter name right here, and this is the implementation of this anonymous delegate. All I'm doing here is just basically setting some of the properties that I need to do. For example, basically if you were like using NHibernate configuration and either from the web config or using cfc.xml file, I'm doing that exact same thing from the code. So I need to identify the connection string name, I need to say that information, I need to tell NHibernate what kind of dialog, what kind of SQL server that I'm using. For example, in my case I'm using 2012, so I set that MS SQL 2012 dialog, and I'm also using what kind of driver that I will be using. SQL server SQL 2008, I don't see that. Okay, SQL 2008 client driver, and it has properties like timeout. Okay, that's what I have to do. I set the timeout as a 255. It is a byte, so I set 255 maximum timeout. And the most important thing you have to do is this setting right here on line number 26. So I say current session context is going to be the web context, web session context. So basically, session is per web request, basically per HTTP context request. And this line number 28, this is where I need to tell where my mapping files are located, like my mapping svm.xml file and my POCO classes are from my database, right? So that's what I have to do here. And once that thing is yet to do, I will visit that part later. And then after that, I'm going to say, okay, here's a configure build a session factory. When you call that method, build session factory, it will give you session factory object. And there is a other method you can call, but like for now, just let's do it. That. Okay, now once that is done, let's go ahead and create here a couple of folders. I'm going to say I'm going to add a new folder here. I'm going to say NHibernate mappings or something like that, and in here I will create it first, new item. Okay, let's go ahead. Once that is done, let's go ahead into our SQL server and create a very simple table. Okay, the table I'm going to use is address right here. So okay, let's just use the address table, very simple. So this address table basically has some basic information like ID, the primary key of the table, address 1, address 2, city, state, and zip code. Very simple. Okay, you start with very simple, how to do basic CRUD operation for the basic simple table address. Usually, like now what you have to do for the NHibernate is basically this corresponding to this table, you need to create a POCO object. Basically, that's a huge amount of coding by hand, but like that's a lot of coding. If you have to, let's say for example, if you had a table with huge amount of properties, you don't want to do that by hand. Just like basic, those are like plumbing code. So that's why there are a lot of tools out there that generate SVM and XML file and POCO file for us. But in my case, I have written my one, so that's the tool I'll be using. So basically what I have here in this tool, so basically I'm saying I'm going into that database and it told me it has a two table, address and a person, and basically I'm going to say, hey, here's the address for the given address, generate me the C# class. And then of course I have to change this one to reflect my namespace. So let's see. Okay, so I want to say practice NHibernate NBC, NHibernate mapping. That's what I'm going to use my namespace as. Okay, NHibernate mappings. Assembly name is the name of my application. Practice NHibernate in MBC1. Okay, I'll change that later. Okay, based on that, we're going to create a table for me, and I'm saying create a class. Good. So I'll just simply copy this class here. Control C, and basically inside here I'm going to create a class called, you guessed it right, class called address. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I have a class called address. Boom. Okay, this is my namespace, and I'm not going to make this class abstract, partial class, and I don't need none of this here because that's specifically written for my different project. So okay, now basically all I have now, I have my address class inside that namespace with the ID, address 1, city, state, zip code, and all those information. And corresponding to this class, and you have to notice a couple of things. This one has to be virtual, all the property, and how we expect it to be virtual property, and all the data type. Now let me grab the corresponding SBM.xml file. This time that's what I'm going to generate, and that's what I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to say I'll use the same folder, and I'm going to add a new item. The item, of course, is going to be data. It's going to be XML file. And the name, it is very important to name it address.hbm.xml. hbm.xml, that is the convenience that NHibernate uses. Okay, this is my XML mapping file, and I will grab basically this one here, and then okay, I will explain the basic things right here. Some of the things so basically this is how NHibernate mapping basically works. It's the XML document. Here is the class, and we are saying the name of my class is address. This is, like I said, it's address inside the NHibernate namespace. And now I have to know actual the namespace of that project, the DLL. Okay, practice NHibernate, and then basically it's referring to a table and bunch of other NHibernate properties, which I'm not going to cover right now, but I'll cover it later because I would like to do extensive videos tutorial of NHibernate. And this ID basically refers to the property. For example, this property of this address right here, this ID, address 1, address 2, city, are very easy mapping because basically here's the name of the property and the type with our string. And exactly the same way, the column that it refers to address 2 with SQL type varchar, not null, false, mean it's not required field. And with the same way, all the property could be mapped. Okay, whether it's a nullable or not nullable, based on that, these properties are set. And the most important thing you have to know is that you need to, embed that resource. When you compile this one, there is go into the basically right click into that XML file and you have to change this one, build action. Instead of content, you're going to say as an embedded resources. That means I'm embedding that into the assembly. Okay, once that thing is done, remember, like now we can go back into our NHibernate helper, and now we have to tell this guy, hey, I would like to include all the files from that mappings. So basically we can say something like configure.addAssembly, and you can do several ways. You can either use a string of that, but instead of doing that, I'm going to use the reflection. I'm going to say type of address. and then basically get assemble.